So today we have Paul Iacono, who will be performing his brand new show, Paul Iacono Unfiltered, at the Green Room 42 in New York City. So tell me, how excited are you to words, they are not working today. How excited are you to perform at this iconic New York venue again?
I'm thrilled to be returning to the Green Room 42. I did a show there. I did an original jukebox musical
Mhm.
about 5 years ago, and I had an incredible experience working in that space. And when I was putting this show together, it sort of felt like the perfect place to do the show.
For sure, definitely. So what makes this iconic New York City venue so special to you?
The Green Room 42 is one of the most unique theaters in New York because, it's in the heart of the theater district, but it has sort of a cool downtown sort of flair to it, which I know is sort of what draws me to it. It has sort of a hip, intellectual quality about it in terms of their programming and whatnot.
Mhm.
And it definitely seemed appropriate venue to do our show.
For sure, definitely.
Yeah.
So tell us more about this new production. What can we expect?
Well, okay. So 5 years ago, right after my 30th birthday,
Mhm.
my life kind of fell apart.
Okay.
Um, a series of unfortunate events unfolded, which only now after the fact are wildly hilarious. And they provided the inspiration for the show,
Gotcha. Okay.
which I'm happy to open up more about, but I'll let you lead the way.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Tell us a little bit more about what are some of these unfortunate events if you want to talk about them.
Yeah, so without giving too much away, I'll give you a couple examples.
Yeah.
I'm sharing moments that have shaped me from the last 5 years. So, misadventures from my time working and not working in Hollywood, my shit show of a love life, and the funny side of having a complete psychotic breakdown.
Okay.
I'm happy to open up about any of those if you want to hear more.
Please just keep going. Just tell us more about everything. We
But you
want to
you
know
you
all.
pick. I mean, pick a topic: love
I
life, career, or mental health.
Let's start with career. Let's go with that first.
Okay. So around the time I hit 30, projects were becoming further and fewer in between. My place in the industry was kind of falling apart, and I had a lot of time to think. And I started to realize that perhaps my reputation for being a good time Charlie, shall we say, might be getting in the way of my acting career.
Okay.
I'll give you an example. So, the DreamWorks pre-Emmy party in 2010. I was invited. It was during when my show was on MTV,
hmm
and it was this A-list event with Tina Fey, Bryan Cranston, John Hamm. I mean, everyone was there. And my best friend and I were there, and we were hobnobbing amongst the A-list,
Yeah.
and we spot Anna Faris, who we were obsessed with because of her starring role in the cult movie stoner film Smiley Face.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, if you've never seen it, Smiley Face. So we go up to her and we tell her how much we love her. We ask for a photo. We get a photo, and she's there with her husband at the time. Maybe you know him, Chris Pratt,
hmm
and they're with Jason Sudeikis.
hmm
So my best friend and I, we proposed that we smoke a joint that we had pre-rolled, trying to get an after party going. And Jason Sudeikis was like, "Well, you got it now. Well, let's light that fucker up." So we do in the middle of the party. And a minute later, the vice president of DreamWorks saunters by, and he's like, "I
Okay.
see nothing and I smell nothing." The next day, I get a call from my agent, Thor. I know. And Thor says, "Look, I've said this to clients before and I'll say it again. But let's say I like riding horses, but riding horses is illegal. I would not ride horses in public. Do you understand what I'm saying?"
Mhm.
So anyway, in one ear and out the other. So my reputation preceded me, and the show is in part a cautionary tale about things that you shouldn't do when you're pursuing a career in the arts and in Hollywood.
Okay, gotcha. Now
Yes.
let's talk about love life.
Yeah. Well, uh, so a little bit more recent, about a year and a half ago, I connect with this guy on Grinder,
Of course.
adorable British guy. We get together the next night. It happened to be on Christmas at Maria's Crisis. Well, where else? Well, for me, that's practically my home away from home.
Mhm.
And we hit it off like majorly. we learned that we have a lot in common. We were both child actors.
Mm-hmm.
We both have mental health issues, and we both like to party. Well, I like to party. He really likes to party. Okay, so we hit it off, and we have this torrid affair for several months until he ghosts me, and I was heartbroken.
Mm-hmm.
And then he calls me a few months later out of the blue and says, I'm in a psychiatric ward. And I said, oh. And he goes, I want you to visit. And I said, oh, I was like, oh, who cares? And then he goes, and I want you to bring me something. And I was like,
It's ominous.
And ominous. And he goes, cupcakes. And I was like, oh, okay. And then he goes, with cocaine stuffed up inside of them. So I won't give away the end of the story of whether or not I did this, but love makes you do crazy things.
It really does. It really does. Okay. Well, then let's talk about the last one, mental health.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure so many people have issues with these days.
Right, of course. I mean, who doesn't, right? I mean, now it's more normal to have some, look, I mean, I've suffered from anxiety and depression and a form of complex post-traumatic stress disorder from stuff that happened in my youth. But during the pandemic and around the time where the show begins again 5 years ago, I started experiencing more mental health issues, and it led to a full-on complete mental breakdown during the pandemic. And I admitted myself to a psychiatric ward, and I was only there for a week. And by the time I left, I was putting on shows with the other patients. But I was diagnosed with bipolar.
Okay.
Bipolar 1, which is the fun one. And basically since then I've had a lengthy recovery in learning how to channel my manic and depressive energy, into something creative and productive like this show.
Okay.
So the show is sort of an encapsulation of my journey with that as well. Okay. But it's all funny. I'm talking, some of the topics that I cover are, a little bit more serious, but it's done in a very humorous way.
Okay, good. So by doing this show, are you at all nervous about laying everything out on the table, being this vulnerable with yourself?
I am, of course. And that's where the title of the show comes from, Unfiltered, from my desire to be open and honest on stage in a way that I haven't before.
Okay.
So of course, yeah, it's nerve-wracking, to put it lightly, but I've lived my life in a very truthful way. I came out publicly in 2011. And at the time there were like 3 other queer actors under 30 who were out. Yeah. It was like John Groff and Chris Colfer and me. It was a very different landscape. It wasn't trendy and hip and cool like it is now. And I'm not taking that away from anyone's journey. You know what I mean? We all come out at different times. It was a completely different story 20 years ago, and it'll be a different story in 20 years from now. But for me, authenticity is a big thing, and this just sort of felt like the next logical step in that progression. Just opening up about career setbacks, mental health issues, stuff like that might be considered taboo or whatever, but it might also be helpful for other people to hear someone who has gotten through some of these problems, or at least maybe if I haven't solved them all, I'm figuring it out. And, that's as much as you can hope for.
Exactly. And in a way, it's also cathartic and therapeutic for you.
Extremely. Yes, absolutely.
So out of everything, overall, what do you ultimately hope audiences take away from this production?
I hope that audiences leave feeling inspired to be true to themselves, to find strength in their vulnerabilities, and to embrace their own journeys. Because if life has taught me anything the last few years, it's that it is full of ups and downs, highs and lows. And, you need to be able to laugh at yourself and accept yourself along the way.
Definitely, for sure. Now, you first gained wide notice for your numerous appearances on the Rosie ODonnell show after she discovered your unique talents for impersonating Frank Sinatra and Ethel Merman at age 8. So let me ask you, how exactly did Rosie discover you?
So my parents, they were, they had this very gay little boy who did Ethel Merman and Frank Sinatra impressions. Uh, they were in denial about the fact that they had this gay little boy, but they were smart enough to know that Rosie O'Donnell would appreciate this gay little 8-year-old boy. So they got tickets to the show, months in advance. It was like her second season, so she was big. She was on top, and she was 2 hours late, or maybe even 3 hours late to a taping of her own show because she was out to lunch with Madonna,
Oh, okay, of course.
as you do.
Yeah.
And so the warm-up guy for the audience, he's running out of material and he's going, does anyone in the audience have any talent? And my father knew this was like the perfect opportunity, and he's like, go. So I did my shtick for the warm-up guy, and he was like, oh my God, you've got to, Rosie's got to see this. So she calls me up during the taping of her show. That was my first time on the show. She just called me up out of the audience. We hit it off, and I ended up coming back on the show. I think it was a total of 12 times.
So,
I have the record for having the most appearances as a child performer.
nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Did you already know at that time that you want to pursue an entertainment career?
definitely. I can remember that I've wanted to pursue a career in the arts, in acting, specifically from as far back as I can remember. I mean, like some of my earliest movie and TV show experiences, I immediately knew that is what I wanted to do.
This is what you
So
want.
it's been in my blood since the beginning.
Nice, very nice. And two of your most notable roles is portraying R.J. Berger in the MTV scripted series The Hard Times of R.J. Berger and Brent Van Camp in the film GBF. What are some of your favorite memories from both of those productions?
Oh wow. RJ was a game-changing experience for me because I mean, how often do you get to be the lead in your own TV show? So, I mean, everything about that experience was sort of surreal and exceptional. One great memory is at the premiere of RJ Berger. We premiered right after the MTV Movie Awards in 2010.
Mm.
And after the show, after the MTV Movie Awards, we're at the after party, and I think our show was now airing live, and we're all excited. And all of a sudden, someone taps me on the shoulder, and I kind of feel someone like tapping me or sort of gyrating behind me. And I turn around, and it's Paris Hilton.
Oh,
And
wow.
she was just all over me, just loving me up. And I'm a ham, and I went right along with it. And the cameras were all up in our face, snapping photos. And now the truth is that we had never met, but her sister Nikki Hilton dated the creator of the show.
Okay.
So there was this connection there, and we were destined to meet at some point in time. But anyway, so Paris and I have this hammy moment at the MTV Movie Awards, and the next day, all over like the Hollywood press rags, it was like Paris Hilton's new boyfriend, and it was like this incredible photo of her and I like locked in this lover's embrace, which is really great. You'll be able to find the photo. Anyway, so then the 2 nights later there was a sort of a second premiere party for the show, and she also attended that, and she showed up with my face glued to her purse or her little clutch. That photo also exists. So yeah, so those that's just an example of some of the surreal sort of Hollywood experiences that I had with that. And with GBF with Brent Van Camp, that was just a ball. That was the most fun I've ever had filming anything. I mean, just especially because of the group that we were working with, the cast and the crew. You had people like Megan Mullally and Natasha Lyonne, and then all the talented kids like Andrea Bone and Michael Willett and Sasha Peterson and Zosha Rockmore. So that was just the most fun I've ever had on set, because it was also right after I'd come out of the closet. So I was queening it up on and off screen like I never had before. And I think it really shows when you go back, and like that movie holds up. We're actually celebrating the 10-year anniversary of it. There's a couple of film festivals have already honored it, but I'll be attending the Prism Film Festival in Austin later this month at the end of August. And they're celebrating the 10-year anniversary of the film, and I'll be there with the director Darren Stein, who did Jawbreaker, and the writer George Northy, and some of the stars and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, if you're in Austin,
yeah, anyone in Austin, yeah, it's hard to believe that's been 10 years already. I remember when the film was being like promoted. Yeah, and then where was I 10 years ago? I don't know what the hell I'm at today. So, but because I remember I interviewed Michael Willett quite a couple of years ago, and I remember talking about the film and being a huge Will and Grace fan. Megan Mullally, I mean, just what was it like working with her? I mean, just being in her presence.
Okay, so she's the best. I mean, like, it goes without saying, right? We met when I was doing the movie Fame. She played one of the teachers. I was one of the students, and we weren't in any scenes together. And I basically wrote myself into 2 scenes to be with her because I was so obsessed with her. Had the director put me into 2 scenes. We hit it off like gangbusters on that movie.
Nice.
And when they were putting together GBF, I'm gonna say something that might not have been said in the press before. Kristen Chenoweth was originally pegged to play my mother.
Okay.
And she was doing Good Wife, I think, and had some type of accident. She fell and she hit her head or something, and she was not able. She then was unavailable to do the film. And when this happened, Darren, the director, and I were in communication, and I was like, "Well, what about Megan?" And he was like, "Oh my God, do you think we could get her?" And I shot her a lovely little email being like, "Hey, we're doing this little indie film, and it's great, and it's a passion project, and it's a great script, and all this." And like, hours later, she was like, "Great," and and then 4 days later, she was on set. Nice. So she's incredible. And her husband, Nick, is one of the absolute sweetest guys in the world. They're both incredible. I love working with her. We've done 2 films together at this point. I would love to do a third.
That'd be awesome. Love it.
Yeah.
Well, now that you have Paul Iacono Unfiltered, what are some future goals you hope to accomplish with your career now?
Yeah, so one of the other things that I've been doing the last 5 years out of the spotlight, I've been working a lot behind the scenes as I've transitioned from performer to performer writer.
Okay.
So including this show, I have 6 projects in development.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Most of them are plays, theater plays. One of them, the one that is most near and dear to my heart, is a project that I've been working on for several years called High Priest. Okay. And it is about Andy Warhol's Silver Factory in the 1960s. And we had this star-studded all-star cast reading of it a few years ago on Zoom for prospective producers and for the Warhol Foundation to get their stamp of approval. And the good news is that the Warhol Foundation loved it. Good. And they were, on board. They had some notes to make it even more historically accurate, but they loved the show. We have not found a home for it yet. But it's at the top of my list of projects. It's definitely the one that I'm most passionate about, and I'm very confident that it will be produced eventually. It's just a matter of finding the right theater company who's sort of willing to take on a larger, ambitious endeavor. But I'm very excited about that one and a few others. But yeah, I'll leave it there.
Okay, just manifest that energy.
Exactly.
Yes, awesome. All right, Paul. Well, how can one stay up to date with you?
I'm on the Instagrams. My handle is psychedelic hedonism. Which real quick, comes from sort of a throwaway joke years ago. I was in the waiting room of an audition, and another actor said to me, and this is before Instagram was Instagram, right? And another actor said to me, he was like, "Did you just smoke a cigarette before you're going to go in for an audition? Like, aren't you concerned with what the casting directors would think?" And I was like, "No, it's kind of my brand, psychedelic hedonism." Anyway, that's where the name came from. It stuck, and I wonder why I'm not cast in more projects, But oh well. Hopefully, this show remedies some of my reputation problems.
I'm sure it will. I mean, it could be a good or a bad way, but it'll rectify something.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, Paul. Well, before we wrap up, are there any other upcoming projects or anything else you would like to mention or plug at this time?
Not at the moment. There's, like I said, there's a couple of things in the works, but it's hard to talk about things until they become real. So I'm gonna leave it there. But check out the show.
There's a
I
live
think
stream option, right?
there is a live stream option, which I've never done before,
Okay.
but that's great because if I have fans in Chattanooga, Tennessee, or something, they can now watch it live just like everyone else. So that's cool, and I think it's only like $20 or something.
Yeah,
It's
good deal.
super cheap. So yeah, check out the show. Get ready to laugh. Get ready for some absurdity. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.